All right, so I will echo what Renee said. About a month and a half ago, I was going to visit Renee for some other reason, and we had this conversation, and she said, "Hey, you're always busy, and you seem to get things done. How would you like to do a presentation on time management?" And I really did laugh at her. And then we talked about it, and I said, I will do it on really two conditions. Number one, that everybody who comes knows I am not an expert on time management. And number two, that we get ideas from other people, because not any one person has all of the answers for time management. And so with that, Renee sent out a couple of emails, and several of you sent responses back on things that you do to help manage your time. And as evidenced by the number of people that are here, we all want to manage our time better. We want to get more done. And I think that's really typical in today's world. We have more and more things that we're asked to do, and unfortunately, when they give us more things to do, they don't give us more time to do it in. So today, we're going to try and identify 5 simple steps that we can all use to manage our time, but to enjoy it as well. And some of these, and we'll go through it, some of these things come from you, and I've tried to give credit where those things should be. So we're going to start with a little activity, and you're just going to have to trust me on this, okay? I need everybody in the room to take a break from eating and close your eyes, okay? So close your eyes, and then what I'm going to ask you to do is in your head, this is important, the in your head part, I want you to either hum or you can sing in your head, if you'd like, row, row, row your boat. Okay, I'll tell you when to start and I'll tell you when to stop. Okay, go ahead and keep your eyes closed. Go ahead and begin. All right, stop. Now, I will admit I've never tried this little experiment before, but I'm just curious, how long did we do that? Ellen?
1,000 years.
Okay? 1,000 years, it was horrible. 1 minute? 1 minute? 2 minutes? 4 minutes. A minute what? 40 seconds. Okay? And some of you may have been singing faster and slower than others. You just couldn't handle it. Now, the thing that's really interesting about that is everyone in the room did the same activity for the same amount of time. So why is it that for some people it was an eternity and for others it was a minute? What's the difference? Any ideas, Ellen? I'm going to pick on you. You shouldn't have sat in the front.
I shouldn't have.
Anybody have a thought? She doesn't like the song. Maybe you don't like singing. The thing that's okay. Feel like you're wasting time? Possibly, sure. The actual time that you did that was 70 seconds.
No way.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, is he crazy? Has he forgotten about us?
70 seconds. And the illustration that I want to make is that time is relative. We all have 24 hours in a day. We all have the same time in a week. But how we use it can determine a lot of things. And what we do with our time, we can enjoy it or we can not enjoy it. And so we have some choices of things that we do. Ellen is not going to hum row, row, row your boat. Okay? So the 5 things that we're going to focus on today are 1, avoid time wasters. Okay? Now I do have a handout that I will give you partway through the presentation, so it'll have some of these things on it if you don't want to necessarily write them all down. The second one is to plan. The third one is to use appropriate resources. And sorry, there's probably not a great place for me to stand and not be blocking the screen. Number 4 is to evaluate. And number 5 is to enjoy. So let's start with time wasters. Okay? Anybody want to guess what they think the number one time waster is? Facebook, TV, what?
Angry Birds.
Angry Birds, okay. I think all of those made the list, okay. Let's just talk about a couple of those things that we spend time on. Now I have to say, of all of these 5 things, this is probably the one that I would attribute, if there's any success that I've had in getting things accomplished, it's this one. Because for whatever reason, I don't spend a lot of time on some of those things. That's neither good nor bad, but being aware of what you personally spend a lot of time on can help you get more time, can help you to accomplish more things. So, social media, okay, is one of the things that we spend a lot of time. I looked up some research on it, and it varies. I think this is a little bit low, but the research I found says that the average American spends 15 minutes a day in social media. I would guess it may be higher, but I have never been very good at social media, so that has never been a problem for me. Television. The average American spends 2.7 hours every day watching television. Okay? I don't. In fact, I don't watch any television. I just don't have time for it. And so for me, that's been my secret, I think, in being able to get things done, is that I'm doing those things. I'm not watching television. Video games. We all carry around these smartphones, right? Actually talking on the telephone, and on 10 things that you do on your phone, where does talking on the telephone fit? 10? Not quite. It's actually number 5. Okay? Before that are things like surfing the internet, playing games, different things like that. And so our phones now become a way to waste time. And we can either choose to use our phones to be productive and get things done, or to waste time. And honestly, I do have some games on my phone, and I do spend some time doing that, but it's not real often. Now this is an interesting one, and I want to clarify, when I say avoid time wasters, I am not suggesting that we avoid email, okay? Because email is a part of our day that we have to do. In fact, one research study suggested that we spend 28% of our work day answering or writing emails, which is a big chunk of time. So one of the things that we can do is be aware of that. Be aware of how email interacts with our day and what we're doing. I've been to several time management workshops where they suggest you block out a set of time that you're going to answer emails, and you're only going to answer emails during that time. Because a lot of times, if you're the kind of person who just sits and watches your email all day long, it's pulling you away from other activities. And so you get focused on an activity, and all of a sudden you get pulled away to answer an email. And then you get back to that activity, and so it slows the process down. So for some people that works, is just to really say, okay, I'm going to answer emails from 8 to 8:30, and I'm going to answer them again from 12 to 12:30, and from 4:30 to 5. And that's when they answer their emails. Whatever works. I mean, that's kind of the key thing. All right, so I want to do a little activity before we get to the next item. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Renee to come and help me pass out some papers here. And I'm going to ask that you not look at it until I tell you to turn it over, okay? And you know what? We're going to be a little bit short on those because when they made some more copies for me, they did not. Oh, never mind. I got them right here. Sure. All right, so you're just going to keep this down. You'll need a pen. There should be a pen. Oh, there's not pens at all the tables because we added a whole bunch more tables. So I'm going to pass these. I got more pens for the tables there. Now, some of you may have participated in this activity before. If you have, that's okay. Don't give away the secret until the appropriate time. Now I'm out of pens. Sorry, table, I'm out of pens. If you have a pen, a pencil will work. Pencil will work. All right, does everybody have a paper? What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the activity that we're going to do, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So you will need to have your paper. You're going to be circling numbers, okay? On the opposite side of your page is a list of numbers from 1 to 100, okay? You've got to circle as many numbers as you can in 30 seconds. Here's the trick. You have to circle them in order. So you have to start with the number 1, then go to the number 2, then circle the number 3, and so forth. We're going to see who can circle the most numbers going in that order from 1 on up in 30 seconds, okay? So everybody should have a paper. Let me get my timer out here. On your mark, get set, flip it over. You got 15 seconds left. 10 seconds left. 5 seconds left. And 3, 2, 1, and stop. All right, so in that bottom corner of your paper, go ahead and write down how many you circled. Okay? All right, who thinks they circled more than anybody else? 11. You have to circle one number at a time. I did. Starting at 1, going up. Anybody get higher than 11? 16. Wow, she's good. Anybody get higher than 16? Jennifer, okay. All right, so 18. Now, what were some of the challenges that you experienced doing this activity?
Pressure.
Pressure? Okay.
There was no order.
There was no order.
I cheated.
You cheated?
Because I just found
Full disclosure.
I circled the number, didn't matter whether it was attached to another number. I made it my own way.
Okay, making up your own rules sometimes can work. Sometimes it can't. So one of the challenges that we face in time management is that things are thrown at us all the time. And sometimes, as has been suggested, there's no order. And we just kind of feel like things are being thrown at us. So if we can organize and plan, we can improve the things that we can accomplish. So looking at that list, and I'm going to have Renee help me again, because now I have another sheet, and Christine can help us too. There's actually some order to this page. You just didn't know it. Okay, it's actually broken up into 4 quadrants. So in the upper, I can't talk and do that at the same time. So as you look at your sheet, in the upper left-hand corner is the number 1. Across from that is the number 2. Below it's the number, over in the other left-hand bottom corner is the 3 and then the 4. And it follows that pattern. So we're going to give you another sheet of paper. We're going to do it again for 30 seconds with a little bit of planning, a little bit of organization. We're going to see if we can get higher than what we did in the last activity. Okay? All right, does everybody have a sheet? No? Renee's working fast. All right, everybody got a paper? All right. And same Same thing, start at 1, circle one number at a time, on up. We're going to get higher than we did last time in 30 seconds. Ready, and go. Renee, as soon as I'm done, then we want to pass these out. Okay. 15 seconds left. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. All right, now, by raise of hands, how many of you circled more numbers the second time than the first time? Okay, so the point that I want to demonstrate is as we move into the next category of things to do to manage our time, it's to plan. And I think this activity is a good demonstration of how important planning is. Now, the one thing that I really want to emphasize as we talk about planning is you've got to find what works for you. There are a lot of different ways that you can plan to use your time. And I'm going to give you an example unrelated to time, but in all of our T-Fit stuff that we're doing, and a lot of research, it documents that if we're trying to manage our weight, how often should we weigh ourselves? Once a week, okay? That doesn't work for me, okay? I have to weigh every single day. If I don't, it holds me accountable. And if I do it once a week, I lose sight of that. So you have to find, when it comes to managing your time and planning to get the most out of your time, what works for you. I'm going to give you some suggestions that some other people have shared in some of the things that I do that may or may not work for you. But throwing it out there and giving you the chance to decide is really the key thing. So number one, several people suggested, and Renee's going to go ahead and pass out the handout.
No.
Yeah, you can pass it out now. That has these 5 things that we're going to talk about. So the first thing that a lot of people suggested was making lists. How many of you are list makers in the room? Okay, there's a lot of list makers. Making lists can be a very positive thing. And I am typically not a list maker. My wife is a list maker. And when we first got married, man, I got a lot of lists. She's kind of toned it down just a little bit. But lists do some really great things. Nicole Funderburk emailed this suggestion that for her, the challenge she has is whatever she puts on her list, she feels like it has to be done that day. She can't wait until another day to get it done, and so that's been overwhelming for her. So her suggestion was to basically create a list and then prioritize it. Just kind of do some simple prioritization. Now, Renee suggested, and I am not familiar with the Covey time management matrix. You can see a picture of it here. He suggests that we take our tasks and we can put them into one of 4 different areas. Across the top you have urgent and not urgent, and along the side you have important and not important. And so where those things fit, obviously we're going to spend our time working on the urgent and important items before we spend a lot of our day working on the non-urgent, not important items. So there are a lot of different ways for you to categorize tasks or lists or things that you need to get done.
Just a comment.
Yeah.
While you brought up the Covey quadrant, the place where everybody should be trying to achieve to spend their time is in the upper right-hand quadrant.
Right.
If you're spending your time in the upper left-hand quadrant, you're doing something wrong because you're always in crisis.
You're always in crisis mode.
And the lower right-hand quadrant is the time wasters.
Very good. From somebody who's obviously read and is familiar with the Covey quadrant, I am not, so thank you for adding that. Some people don't like to prioritize their list. They just make lists. Yes? Yes, I can. We can also email, put the PowerPoint up on the T-Fit webpage. Some people don't really like to prioritize tasks. For me, I don't spend the time doing that. I have my list of things to do. And I'm going to talk about some other resources that can be used to help doing those lists. Are we okay to move on? Okay. One of the things that I do, that actually my wife and I do, is we have a calendar. We sit down at the first of each month and we talk through our month. And we make a calendar. Now this is a picture of our January calendar. of things that are happening this month. And so we sit down and we write it out. It's a dry erase calendar, and we write down all the things that we're doing for the month. And then we also sit down every week and we plan out our week. Now, for some people, this wouldn't work, but for us, it's great. We plan our meals for the entire week. I go grocery shopping one time for the entire week, and it works really well. And so having that plan and putting it all together, it actually helps to...
And he has his grocery list on his phone.
And my grocery list is on my phone, which we will talk about in just a minute as a resource to use. Okay? All right. Now, one thing, and I was going to bring this, and I forgot to bring it, so if you're ever walking through my office and you want to see the frog, one of the things that I learned at a time management workshop was to eat the frog. And this was actually a suggestion that was sent to Renee as well. And that sounds odd, eat the frog, but eating a frog is not pleasant, right? No, none of you should be nodding your head because I hope none of you have eaten well, maybe somebody's eaten a frog, I guess. Frog legs. But eating a frog would not be in my list of favorite things to do. And so the idea with Eat the Frog is we all have things that we really need to get done, but we just don't want to do it. And we put it off, and we put it off, and we put it off. And what happens is we spend a great deal of our intellectual ability for the day thinking about the thing that we need to get done, but we don't want to do it, and we waste a lot of time, and we're just not as happy as we could be either. So the idea is to identify the frog, eat the frog first thing in the morning, and get on with your day. A great little tip. So in my office, I actually have a little wooden frog. And it has a little tool that I can rub its back, and it croaks like a frog. So when I've eaten the frog, I croak the frog. Okay? And then I move on to the next thing to do. Another thing that kind of fits right with that is PWT, which stands for Power Work Time. This is one of the greatest tips that I have learned. And that is our days get cluttered and people interrupt us. Don't feel like it's a bad thing to say, I have an hour of power work time, or 2, or whatever. And you tell, your administrative assistant or whoever's working with you, I'm doing power work time. If you walk into the recruitment offices, you'll oftentimes see on people's door, PWT. Their door's closed, and we know that's power work time. We're not going to interrupt them. That's their time to get things done. And I think it's a really great way to kind of plan and say, okay, today I've got an hour right here. I'm going to make power work time available. Parker suggested reading the book Getting Things Done by David Allen. I will admit I have not read it, but I asked him what he liked about it, and it kind of tied to this idea of lists, in that we have stuff, and if I get it wrong, Parker, you just correct me, okay? We have stuff in our head that's just floating around. This is my wife to a T, and she worries about it all the time. So if you take those things that are just rolling in your head and you write them down, and then you write down on that same list the next step to accomplish that thing, and then store it in a safe place. You don't have to necessarily do it right then, but by writing it down in the next step, you take it out of your head and free you up to be able to focus on other things. And so you've got that list of things that you need to get done. Sherry Skogard suggested breaking down big jobs. Now, this reminds me of the statement of how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Absolutely. Now, how many of you read The Happiness Advantage that T-Fit did? Okay. In The Happiness Advantage, he talks about the Zorro circle and starting in the inner circle and then working your way out to accomplish the things that you need to do. It's kind of the same idea with breaking things down. Looking at an entire project can be very overwhelming. But to be able to break it down and tackle it little pieces at a time can also help us to accomplish things. And that takes some planning as well. Okay? All right, next up is to use appropriate resources. Now, as we look at appropriate resources, again, you have to find what works for you. Some things are not going to work for you, and some things, things that work for me may not work for you. But if you don't know about them, you can't try them. So one is to know your skills and your likes. Some of you want absolutely nothing to do with technology, and you are just fine using a notebook or a piece of paper to make your lists on. And I'll pick on Amy, who's sitting in the back, because Amy, not that she doesn't do technology, and maybe it's changing, but I have watched Amy since she started working here. She has a notebook, and she takes that notebook with her to every meeting, and everything that goes on in that meeting, she just puts a little box. And she'll write down she's got to do this. When it's done, she checks it off. And it's all in that one notebook. I was so impressed by that. I went out and bought a notebook. It doesn't work for me. I get a notebook full of little boxes that never get checked off. So you've really got to find what it is that works for you. And so if you know what it is that you enjoy doing, or if you don't like technology, use paper, use whatever, but use what works for you to help you be successful. The other thing I want to note here is pay attention to the time you spend using some of those other resources. And I'm going to share some of my favorite resources to manage time here in just a second. But sometimes technology can actually slow us down rather than help us. If it takes us so much time to put our list together, we could be wasting time. So pay attention to that as you go through those things. So this brings us to Jared's 5 favorite apps to save time. Now, I will admit without any shame that I am an Apple user. So the apps that I am talking about, I know work on Apple products. Whether they have them for Android and Windows-based devices, I'm going to leave that to you to find out. Some of them I do know if they work on other places, but we'll kind of go through some of those things. One of the apps that I absolutely love is called ShopShop. I believe ShopShop is a free app. And I will just demonstrate it for you here really quickly. It's a simple ability to make lists. So this is my events shopping list. These are things that I have to go purchase this afternoon before 4 o'clock for our events that are coming up on campus. I can create multiple lists. So I have a Costco list, I have an events list, I have a shopping list. It syncs through either iCloud or through Dropbox or some of those other sources. So if my wife says, hey, I forgot to put milk on the list, she adds it on her phone and it shows up on mine. So that and the other thing that I absolutely love is that it is so easy to sort. So when I go shopping at Walmart, I hate to do the thing all over back and forth. This tells you that I know a lot about Walmart, but I organize my list so that I make one loop all the way around the store. And I get in and I get out as fast as I can, okay? So it's a great resource. I think it's, like I said, I think this one's a free app that you can purchase. Okay, the second app that I really like is PDF Reader, and this one ties more specifically to work than other things. And there's a lot of different PDF readers out there. I like this one, again, because it's affordable. I don't think it's more than a couple dollars. But it allows you, unlike some of the other apps that are available, to open Word documents, to open Excel documents, to open PDF documents. And I can go into and sync it across devices. So again, I can use it on my phone, I can use it on my iPad. But then I can go into various things. Let's show, for example, I went to the scheduling meeting this morning. Laurie emailed me the schedule. I can pull up the schedule. I can then go through and you can see that I've highlighted the things that we talked about in the meeting. I can add notes. I can add annotations. And so it is a really easy way for me to keep all of those PDF documents that I use all the time that I think is really helpful in managing all of that information and all of those other things that we have to do. Okay? All right, the third app that I love is 2 Days. Now, I'll admit I have only been using this for a couple of weeks in preparation for this workshop, but this is really a list management app. 2 Days is 99 cents, and what I like about it is the simplicity. Two Days is set up so that you get reminders, but you have 3 essential lists. You have a list of things that need to be done today, you have a list of things that need to be done tomorrow, and you have a list of things that need to be done later. So when an item is, I can go and say, okay, and as you can see, I was working with Becky on their soccer fee that I needed to get resolved. I have that on my to-do list for today. If I say, gosh, I'm not going to get to that today, I just click on Move, and I move it to tomorrow, and it's on tomorrow's list. The other thing is, as I get something completed, so let's say that I figured out, well, I have to talk to Amy about telecounseling, Amy, so I'm going to be catching up with you here pretty quick. But I just click the checkbox, it goes away. But the nice thing is that there's a little box over there on the side that shows me the logbook of the things I've done. So I can go back to those lists really quickly and easily and add it back into my list if it's a repeat task that I'm doing quite often. But I love the simplicity of it because it's just really easy to add things and really easy to take them off as I finish them. Okay, so that's 2 Days. The fourth app is SpringPad. Now, I admit I use SpringPad on a daily basis. This is a note-taking app. And so if you take a lot of notes, I love SpringPad for a couple of reasons. Number one, SpringPad is free. Number two, SpringPad is used in multiple devices. So you can use it on an Android phone. You can use it on your computer. You can use it on, and it syncs through Bluetooth. So if I take notes, we don't want to be showing you my daughter's medical information. I don't think I had that quite set up to go that way. I have all of these different notes. Now, this is a secret that I've learned. I have taken all of these notes, and sometimes it's tricky because I have so many notes that what I have discovered now is that I can go in and I can create what they call it a spring, but I can create a note for my directors' meetings, and then I can add other ones underneath it so that I really have just one note for directors' meetings. And all of those meetings, all those notes get stored in the same place. It is searchable. You can search on any word that you've used in your note, which makes it really easy to go back and find notes that you're looking for. But what I love is the fact that I can take a note on my iPad and go to my computer, and I can pull it up and I can see all of those notes. I have access to my notes anytime, anywhere that I am. And I love that about SpringPad. And besides, it's free. So that's an app that I really enjoy. All right, so the next app is Password Keeper. Now, Password Keeper is only available on the iPhone. But in today's world, we are managing lots and lots of passwords. I imagine I've got over 100 passwords in my Password Keeper that I have to try and remember as I go to different sites. So I took a picture of it. This is kind of what it looks like. The actual name of it is, I just looked it up with Nicole, because it's not called Password Keeper. It's called Quick Password Manager. So it's wrong on your notes. So if this is one you're interested in, Quick Password Manager, I believe it's 99 cents. I like it because it doesn't send my passwords out to any other network. It keeps them right on my phone. I can, through iTunes, upload an Excel file and print out my passwords as a backup, but I like that. It does not sync back and forth between other devices, so it only works on the iPhone, but I like that. Cindy?
I'm confused because I found that Password Keeper, but you said it's
It's called Quick Password Manager, and that is not it. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky, but Quick Password Manager is the name of it, and we tried it with Nicole just before the workshop, and it pulled right up if you use Quick Password Manager. I have 5 minutes. Okay, we got to cruise. All right, I do have a little secret, and unfortunately, this thing, I got to go back through our 5 apps here. All right, 2 days, SpringPad.
2 days integrate with a Google Calendar?
2 days, I don't believe integrates. It's kind of its own thing.
It has the same dialog box for reminders.
Yeah, it does, but I think it's separate. It just probably looks the same. Okay. All right, I lied. I have 6. The 6th one is Day 1. I don't know why that didn't show up there. Day 1 is an app that I discovered about 4 months ago. It's a journaling app. If you like to journal, I like to journal, but I just often didn't have time to do it. So Day 1, it's not going to show up there. Day 1, you can find it on there. It is a beautiful journaling app where you can store your pictures, and it puts it in a timeline, so you can just kind of see all that stuff. All right, number 4 on our list is to evaluate. This was really a tip from Renee that really to improve our time management, one of the things we need to do is sit back and say, okay, let's look at how that went. How did today go? Did I get anything done? Did I not get the things done I wanted to? What worked? What didn't work? And evaluate so that you can improve the next day. I think that's really a key to improving anything that we do is to evaluate what we do. And this should be the same thing with time management, is to evaluate the things that we're doing with time management. The other thing to remember is nobody's perfect. So don't expect ourselves to be perfect when it comes to managing our time. We do a lot every day. And so our goal is to do better and to manage our time better, and we can all do that, but don't expect to be, I was talking with Becky yesterday, and she said, what everybody really wants when they come to your workshop tomorrow is a magic pill that'll double their amount of time. Okay, there is no magic pill that's going to double our time, but we can use evaluation to see what we're doing and what's working and what's not, and then try to improve some of those things. All right, this one is out of order, but enjoy. One of the things that we really, oftentimes we get so busy that we just don't enjoy the things that we're doing. So a few things that people suggested. Learn to say no. Thanks, Sherry. I need help with that one myself. I am not very good at saying no. I am a people pleaser and I want everybody to be happy. And so I tend to take on more than I probably should. So there's a tip for me, is to learn to say no. Be flexible, but not too flexible. And I say that because one of my coworkers, we were at a holiday party, and we were talking about his brother, and I said, "What are you doing for Christmas?" "Well, I don't know. My brother hasn't decided." Mind you, this was about 4 days before Christmas. "Well, he just sort of does whatever he wants. None of us know." I'm like, "Well, is he going to your parents' house?" "We don't know." Okay, so flexibility is good to a point. Our days won't be perfect, but if we're flexible, we can just kind of go with the flow and enjoy things a lot more. Bonnie Rayburn suggested just do it. It kind of ties into the eat the frog. Just tackle that thing and get it started, and that will help. Find joy in the journey. We have so much stuff going on, and so I fear that we are too often so busy that we don't just enjoy being with each other, being with whoever that we're spending time with, or the projects that we're doing. And then I wanted to kind of end on this one, which is making connections. And you wouldn't normally think, how does making connections improve my effectiveness and my time management? Here's a couple of quotes that came from the Happiness Advantage. A study of over 350 employees in 60 business units at a financial services company found that the greatest predictor of a team's achievement was how the members felt about one another. It's our relationships with each other that can motivate us and help us to actually achieve more. Jim Collins, from his book Good to Great, said the people we interviewed from Good to Great companies clearly loved what they did, largely because they loved who they did it with. And so that's really important. So perhaps most important, social connections motivate. So the connections that we have as we come to things like this and as we work at SUU, and I can't think of a better place to work than SUU. I love it here, and I love the people that are here, and it just motivates me every day to come to work and to be excited about it. And so with that, thanks for coming. Good luck with your time management, and I will turn it back to Renee.